I'm a mama of a 6-month-old baby girl. I'm a school psychologist, and I am working through my own experiences with clinical anxiety and OCD. My name is Catherine, and I am a miraculous mama.
Welcome back to the Miraculous Mamas podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Joy, and we believe in empowering women through storytelling and education. Today, I am so excited about our episode. You guys, every single week, I'm blown away by our guests. It's so much fun to connect with moms, to learn, to grow. Last week, we had Hunter Clarke-Fields on to talk about parenting, and I just listened back to that episode and it was so good. I just want to hang out with her and get wisdom from her because she's been through it, and she has just created an awesome mindful parenting community. And it's more about doing the work yourself, in yourself, that reflects outward to your children. And I'm just so fascinated by that because our kids are mirrors to us. They're going to bring out the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful. And it's our job to do that work to end generational patterns that aren't healthy and to create new ones that are, and to help set our kids up to learn how to be mindful themselves. So it's definitely something I have to work on. I'm excited to take her courses. Make sure you guys check her out. Today, though, we are going to have an awesome birth story. So we haven't done a birth story in a while, and so many people who listen to the podcast sent me Elizabeth Parsons' profile on Instagram. They're like, you have to get this lady on your podcast. So I reached out to her and she got back to me, and I'm so grateful for her coming on because she just gave birth 3 weeks ago. She has other children and I'm like, wow, you are killing it. And she made time to come on the podcast and to join us. And she has such an awesome story. Just a heads up, there was one point during the interview where her rooster was kind of crowing and I couldn't really tell what it was, but she's like, could you hear my rooster crowing for a little bit there? So if you hear a weird noise, it's a little bit later in the podcast. It's a rooster. So that's what that is. Guys, we're getting into the holiday season. I cannot believe that next week, I think it's next week, is Thanksgiving, and then it's going to be Christmas. Vito and I started decorating for Christmas this last weekend because, I wish I would have started sooner because Christmas is my favorite, and I'll definitely leave them up probably for most of January. It's just such a warm, cozy feeling, coming home and having your Christmas lights on and just the smells and the sights. And I got Jovi's stocking in the mail the other day, and it's just, I love Christmas so much. And I'm going to I haven't started watching Christmas movies yet, but I'm going to just start every single day watching a Christmas movie and soaking it all in because it's just, like I said, it's the feeling of Christmas is just so joyful. I am super bummed. We were planning on hosting Christmas this year for my family, and we ended up canceling it just with everything going on with the pandemic and Jovi being so small. And since she was in the NICU, the doctors were just saying, we just have to be careful with her lungs because she had some issues in the beginning. And so we just made the conscious decision to not host Christmas this year, which means we don't get to spend any of the holidays with my family because they would all be coming in from out of town and staying here. And so we just decided that probably wasn't a good idea this year. So I'm bummed that we don't get to have it with our family, but with my family, but thank God for FaceTime and technology, and we use Marco Polo to send videos and video chat just to keep each other in the loop and to be able to connect with family that's far away. It's so hard. I feel for all the people out there that don't get to be close to their families throughout the year and let alone during the holidays. It's hard. It's hard not getting to spend, time with them or be able to travel like you used to just because of everything going on. So, Illinois is crazy right now. I think we're the only state actually in the United States that has, banned indoor seating in restaurants, and it's getting cold. So, the numbers here for coronavirus have skyrocketed. So have the deaths. So basically we're like shut down again. And as a new mom, I can see how lonely that could make people feel. I feel like I'm kind of a homebody, and the only people I'd see anyways is like family. So, it's not too bad for me yet. I feel like as it gets colder, it's going to be harder because I love just like spending time outside and taking Jovi and Hutch on walks. And when it gets really cold here, I'm probably not going to want to take her outside too much. But, yeah, I mean, it's definitely hard. So I feel for all of you mamas out there, going through this. Definitely join our Facebook group because the community there is awesome. And I know that I've connected with so many people there, and I feel less alone in this journey. And I feel like I can ask questions in there no matter how silly they may seem to me. I might be like, hey, I haven't done this before. Is this normal? Or how do you do this? And, what's your best trick for handling this situation? So it's awesome just to get in there and to connect with the women because they are amazing and I love them so much. And sometimes we do some fun giveaways. I'm going to do a Secret Santa gift exchange in there for any of the women who are interested in doing it as well. Also, if you're listening, make sure that you subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening. Leave us a review. Let us know who is your favorite guest. If you have a podcast episode that you want me to do or a special guest, please reach out to me. Let me know. I love hearing from you guys and who you want to get on. Like today's guest, Elizabeth, you guys sent her to me. I didn't know her story and you guys were DMing me with it. So I'm so excited that it worked out that she gets to come on. So I'm going to go ahead and grab her and start this amazing birth story. Hey everyone, I have Elizabeth Parsons here, and just from reading her Instagram profile, I was like, wow, I feel like we'd be best friends because she's into all the same crunchy stuff that I am, and she has a crazy birth story, which I had a bunch of you listeners send me her profile and be like, you have to get her on. You have to get this lady on to tell her story. So I'm so excited that you are here with me with the little baby in your arms and another one. But I don't want to give away the whole story. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So you have an older child, correct?
I have 3 older children.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes, I do. I have a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a almost 3-year-old, and then now newborns.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, how fun. And so you work as a pediatric RN?
So I graduated nursing school in 2011 and practiced as a pediatric RN until earlier this year. Actually, in March, I kind of stepped away from the hospital setting because I knew that I was expecting again, and we also happened to move about an hour out of the city. And so just the commute didn't really make sense, especially since we were going to be expecting our 4th child. And so I stepped away from the hospital setting. I do plan on doing nursing in some capacity in the future. I loved my job and I love nursing. But for my lifestyle and just kind of like my values, it was a little bit draining there at the end. And we can get into that if you want. But so yeah, I am a registered nurse, but I'm not currently practicing in the hospital.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we are going to take a break because I have to tell you about one of my favorite new products, and that is Drops. They make eco-friendly cleaning solutions with eco-responsible packaging, powerful formulas that contain plant-based ingredients, And the best part is there's no measure, no mess, and there's lightweight detergents. That means no spills. If you're like me, I have struggled with laundry detergent, the giant plastic bottles, and you're trying to get every single drop out of it. Well, Drops makes it so easy. They're pre-packaged individual packs that you just toss in the bottom of your washing machine, then throw your laundry in on top of it, and has made my life so much easier. As a new mom, it's like grab a pack, throw it in, and you don't have to worry about sitting there trying to measure it out, spilling stuff. I know before sometimes I would just like dump some in there and not even know if I was like using the right amount. But that is why I love using Drops. They've made it so easy for me. Somehow my laundry, just from having a kid, has gone like, it's quadrupled somehow just from having a baby. I've been loving their sensitive skin laundry detergent pods that I've been using for Jovi. They're safe and gentle for any skin allergens. They can help prevent skin rashes, redness, and irritation. It's a gentle formula for washing natural fibers and delicate items. For Vito's concrete laundry that he brings home from laboring, it's so dirty, and I use the Stain and Odor laundry detergent pods for that as well, because they help get the sweat, the mud, and the dirt out of his clothes. And I've also been loving their dishwasher detergent pods. It's efficient cleaning of dishes, as good as any leading brand out there. I know sometimes it's like iffy to try something new, but it cleans glassware, it's shinier, it's awesome stuff. You definitely have to check out Drops. And we've been just doing more cleaning than ever in our house. Like I said, laundry is piling up. It is so crazy, but it's hard to find eco-friendly cleaning products that actually work. So check out Drops, the laundry and dishwasher detergent pods that everyone's talking about. With over 10,000 5-star reviews, you'll see in no time how great their products are. Drops delivers powerful cleaning from nature with plant and mineral-based formulas to your door in a low-waste cardboard packaging instead of plastic containers that end up in our oceans and landfills. So sign up for auto shipments to save big. You can pause, skip, or cancel anytime. Visit drops.com/mamas and use code mamas for 25% off your first order. Now back to the episode. Well, I guess like one thing when I was reading your profile and it said that you were a pediatric RN. So for those of you listening, I don't know how your other births were, but with this last one, you chose to do a home birth. And that's not something that I see a lot of RNs choosing to do. So I'm very curious how you made that decision.
Yeah. So, my first 3 births were all in the hospital. They were natural births, meaning unmedicated births, just in a hospital setting. And there were various reasons that I chose to do each one of those in the hospital. Some of it was like one time it was insurance issues, and another time it was, my first baby, I just didn't really know what to expect. And so, this time around, I knew that I did not want to birth in the hospital again. I felt like for the way that I do birth, I had to push every single step of the way to kind of do things the way that I knew that my body was made to do them. And not everybody has that experience in the hospital, but that had been my experience. And I just didn't want to deal with it again. And so looking into home birth this time around, I was like, I don't care. Like, I don't care if insurance doesn't cover it. I don't care. Like, I can't do another hospital birth. And my husband was very supportive, thankfully. And I found a midwife, and thankfully where I live in Texas, like, you can do home births. And I know that, it's not the same in every state for laws and stuff like that. But I found a midwife that I loved. And that was that. Like, the rest was history. She came and she did home visits. I didn't have to go into the hospital once. Like, it was just the most amazing experience, like, prenatal experience that I've ever had. And then obviously, like, my birth and my postpartum was great too. So it was just such a difference. And that's something I'm passionate about now, is kind of like bringing light to home birth. And like, I know not everybody chooses to do home birth, and that's not for everybody. And I am thankful. Obviously, I'm a nurse. Like, I know that there's certain instances where you do need modern medicine, but I think especially in pregnancy, we treat the pregnant woman kind of like she has a disease that needs to be intervened upon, when really this is something that us as women were made to do. And in most cases, if you just kind of leave it alone and let your body do what it was made to do, then you don't need any interventions. And I call it the intervention snowball. Once you step foot in the hospital. And I kind of experienced a little bit of that with my daughter, my first daughter, when she was born. So I didn't want that this time, and I couldn't have been happier. So I'm very thankful.
Yeah. I interviewed a midwife back in July, and she ended up being the one who actually delivered my daughter. And, cause I work with a midwifery group, so you're not sure like who you're going to get when you go into labor. And she had actually left the practice because she's opening a birth center, but she was just picking up a few random shifts, and she happened to be like on backup when I went in. And so, yeah, it was fun that I got to have her. And she had said something like similar to what you said. It's like midwifery care should be the entry level care for all pregnancies. And then if there's an issue, if you're high risk, that's when you should be referred out to an OB, when you should be referred out to somebody who manages those high risk situations. And that doesn't even necessarily mean hospital. Just I birthed in a hospital with a midwife group. But my birthing experience wasn't a typical hospital birthing experience. They're very evidence-based where I was, and was able to have my midwife and doula and everything the way that I wanted. So, but you're absolutely right. Pregnancy is kind of treated like you're broken, like you have a disease that we need to cure this, we need to do that. And it's like so many things do end up working themselves out, but there definitely is, like you said, those situations where it's like, okay, this needs to be monitored. We need to make sure that this is under control. And that's great that we have people who can do that, Yeah. For sure. So I love that philosophy. So how was your pregnancy then this time around compared to your others?
So my pregnancy, I've been blessed with most of my pregnancies have been very non-eventful. This pregnancy was pretty much the same up until the end. I didn't really have excessive nausea, and I don't really get morning sickness. And I know that everybody's going to be like, "Oh, you suck," but it's just not something I've had to deal with. And I felt great. Everything was normal. I chose this time not to do any ultrasounds. And typically in the past, I do limit my ultrasounds just because we don't have studies on like how they affect babies. And it is heat that is, and babies are suspended in water. And so like, what are the effects of heating this water, using an ultrasound? So I try and err on the side of, let's do the least amount that we need to. So in the past, I've always done the 20-week anatomy scan just to make sure everything's great, everything looks good. This time around, because of just the state of the world and coronavirus and everything that's been going on, I just didn't want to deal with the hospital at all. And so I chose just not to do any ultrasounds and was at peace with that. And we did find out the gender via a blood test at like 13 weeks. We found out it was a boy. My midwife, when she came for visits, always heard the heart. It was always super strong. I was measuring a few weeks ahead throughout the pregnancy, like usually anywhere from like 2 to 3 weeks ahead, which is pretty normal for me. I'm kind of like a broad, tall girl, so I'm not very petite, which applies to my pregnancies as well. But then towards the end, I just started to feel so uncomfortable and just in so much pain. My hips just felt like they were going to break. And I had seen the chiropractor this whole pregnancy for the first time. I'd never used chiropractic care during my previous pregnancies. And the hopes in that was that I didn't have back labor like I'd had previous pregnancies. And it worked great, but just at the end there, like the last, I would say month, I was just miserable, so miserable. There's really no other way to explain it. I was huge. And I like sleeping. I felt like my belly, every time I turned in bed, was just going to like, just break apart. And I was just really, really uncomfortable. And I had a lot of tears shed, into my husband's shoulder. Just, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. And I know that so many of your listeners can relate to that. Just the last month of pregnancy, it feels like the whole 9 months over again, as far as like waiting and just time. And so besides that, everything was great. It was a smooth pregnancy. And then I was measuring, like, I think the last visit, I was measuring 43 weeks at 40.
At 40, okay.
When I was 40.
Mm-hmm. We are going to take a break from this episode because I have to tell you guys about an amazing new service that I found called FrameBridge. FrameBridge makes it easier and more affordable than ever to frame your favorite things without ever leaving the house. From art prints and posters to the photos sitting on your phone, you can FrameBridge just about anything. FrameBridge is also the perfect way to give easy and thoughtful gifts. In just minutes, you can turn a photo from your phone into one of the best gifts ever. Just go to framebridge.com and upload your photo, or they'll send you packaging to safely mail in your physical pieces. Preview your item online in dozens of frame styles and gallery wall layouts. You can choose your favorite or get free recommendations from their talented designers. The experts at FrameBridge will custom frame your item and deliver your finished piece straight to you or anyone on your list. A handcrafted, personalized gift from FrameBridge starts at just $39, and all shipping is free. Plus, my listeners will get 15% off their first order at framebridge.com when they use the code MAMAS. So if you guys are looking for Christmas gifts, FrameBridge is the perfect service to use. You can have your kid draw a personalized gift for their grandparents, and you can frame it and send it to them. I love that idea. We are actually finally framing one of our wedding photos because I haven't framed any of them yet. And then we're doing some stuff with Jovi for the grandparents on there as well. They have ornaments, which are really, really cool. You can do personalized ornaments with just from a photo on your phone. They make it so easy, and you can get started today. Frame your photos or send someone the perfect gift. Go to framebridge.com and use code MAMAS to get an additional 15% off your first order. Just go to framebridge.com, promo code MAMAS. That's framebridge.com, promo code MAMAS. All right. So when did you go into labor, and how did all of that go down?
Yeah. So historically, I have a very comfortable uterus, I guess, and have gone past due with all of my babies. So I was expecting that this time. I was expecting to go, at least to my due date. And it was actually leading up to my due date. So my due date was Friday. It was October 9th. And the 8th, I decided to go get an ultrasound just to, I was just so big. Yeah. And my husband had kind of jokingly said like, oh, what if there's 2 in there, just messing with me. But then we kind of got to talking about it, and we were like, well, let's just make sure that he's head down. And my midwife had said he was, but we kind of just wanted to just a really quick, it wasn't like a medical ultrasound. It was just one of those places that you schedule an ultrasound for a gender thing. And so we did go, and we had a last little date night that Thursday, got the ultrasound. She was like, no, there's only 1 baby in there. And I was like, okay, phew, good. He's head down. Here's the heartbeat. Saw the heartbeat on the monitor, and she couldn't really get a good picture of him, of his head or anything, because he was so down into my pelvis. So, and then we went to a nice dinner, and it was great. And then that Friday, I had an appointment, actually a home visit with my midwives already scheduled. And so they came at 10 o'clock that morning, and I had been feeling some kind of early symptoms of labor, just a little bit of contractions. I had been having Braxton Hicks for a while, but these were a little bit stronger and kind of like, that feels a little different. And so when they got here, I was on my birth ball, or my exercise ball, and I guess just throughout that appointment, kind of the way that I was acting, they decided kind of to stick around. My midwife lives an hour away and actually had an appointment to go to that was 2 hours away after me. And she said, I'm going to forego that today, and we're going to stay around. Let me know, if things progress. And so I was like, okay. Well, they left, and I just decided to download my contraction app, and I was having contractions like every 2 to 5 minutes, and they were like 45 seconds long. And at this point, they were all in my back, which is how my previous labor started. So once I told my midwife that, she was like, okay, we'll go ahead and finish up lunch and we'll come over. And I explained this in my Instagram post, that I feel like every pregnant woman, when you're going into labor, you don't want it to not be labor. Like you doubt yourself so much. And I think that's because, for me at least, like, I don't want to waste anybody's time. I don't want somebody to come here and then be like, oh, you're not really in labor. We put this like pressure on ourselves. Like, well, what if it's not really the real thing? And, I could be like 9 centimeters and still doubting myself. But she did come, and I had already dilated a little bit just from that morning when she had checked me, which was the first cervical check that I got that pregnancy. I don't really do cervical checks until like 40 and on, just to kind of, because it can change so much. It can change so quickly that getting checked at 37 weeks for me is like, it would just be kind of pointless. And
it doesn't really mean anything anyways. You could be 3 centimeters for 3 weeks. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's such a mind game anyway. I'm like, I don't need that drama. So anyway, I did get her to check me that morning when she came here. And then when she came in the afternoon, I had already dilated like another 2 centimeters. And so I was like, okay, so like this is maybe happening. And so I just did a lot of walking. We, like I said, moved out to the hill country. And so we have 6 acres out here, and it was a beautiful day. I just walked up and down our driveway so much, and just kind of like was mentally preparing and getting my mind ready that like this could be the day, and then I'm trying, sorry, my train of thought is like, it's like, what did happen in that like 9 hours after that? I just feel like this labor was so different from my other ones. It was slow, and I didn't really know why. So every time she would do like a check on me, she would say, this is odd, which is like never something that you want to hear when somebody's got fingers like checking your cervix. But she was like, most people dilate like this, like a V, because the baby's head is coming down and dilating you. And she's like, you're kind of dilated like an A, like an upside down V. And she's like, that's just a little odd. And I was like, okay. And so I just wasn't progressing like super quickly. And it had gotten to the point. So like they got here, it was like mid-afternoon, and I progressed relatively quickly to 7 centimeters. And that was around like 5:30 that afternoon. I was 7 centimeters, and I was like, all right, like, this is awesome. Like 7 centimeters, let's go. Let's do this transition, like getting ready, getting the birth tub not blown up, but filled. And because with my son previous to this, I got to the hospital at 5 and he was born at 7. And I was like 4 centimeters when I got to the hospital. So, anyway, that was like I said, like 5:30, and come at like 10 o'clock, I still was a 7 when she checked me again. And, so that was a little bit discouraging for me. But I still just kept on rubbing the clary sage. That was huge for me this pregnancy, was using my clary sage essential oil, and I would rub it on my belly. And I felt like that would help the contractions like keep going if I felt like they were kind of like waning. I did get in the tub for a little bit, but I didn't want to get too relaxed because that can also stall labor. I didn't want to be like too comfortable, if that's possible. So when she checked me at 10, I was still a 7. And by 10:30, she could kind of see that I was like a little bit discouraged. And she was like, you know what, why don't you go lay down and try and nap for a little bit? And I was like, that's a crazy suggestion. Why are you telling me to go lay down? I need to be up and moving and like getting things going. But I went and I laid down, and my husband came and laid down with me, and we were actually able, well, he said he didn't nap. I was able to like get a little bit of rest in between the contractions. And when I woke up, it was like night and day. Like I had 3 of the most intense contractions. Like I got up around like 11:30 and just had 3 back to back to back. And they were strong, and they were like, I was like vocalizing through them. And I told my husband, I was like, if these continue like this, then this is transition and we're going to be having a baby soon. And, so she got me on the birth stool, and so I came out and I told there was 3 midwives here. And so I told them like, hey, I'm up and I just had some pretty intense contractions, just letting you guys know. And so, they came into the bedroom and kind of got a little bit more set up in there and, put some tarps down. And, I got on the birth stool, and, the birth stool was a new thing for me. I don't know if you've ever used,
Yeah.
I'm sure you have. Yeah. I've never used one before. And it was kind of like, I didn't really enjoy it, but at the same time, I felt like it was working.
Yeah.
But it was really uncomfortable. I was still having back labor. And at some point, I don't really know when it was, but at some point between 7 and like complete, I started to have contractions in my belly. So they switched. So that was super odd for me. But that'll make sense later.
We're going to take a quick break from this episode to talk about how 30 million women are impacted by weakened or thinning hair. And if you're among them, you are not alone. And there's a solution you can trust to deliver results, and that is Nutrafol. Thousands of women have taken back control of their hair with Nutrafol, with many users raving that the supplement not only transformed their hair, but restored their confidence too. Health comes from within, and Nutrafol supports healthy hair growth from within by targeting the 5 root causes of thinning, which is stress, hormones, environment, nutrition, and metabolism. In a clinical study, 86% of women reported improved hair growth after 6 months. More than 1,500 top doctors recommend Nutrafol as an effective and high-quality solution for healthier hair. And one thing I hear from women all the time is how they complain about postpartum hair loss. It is a real thing. My hair just started falling out. But even if you're a year out or 2 years out and you have all these baby hairs trying to come back in, Nutrafol is an awesome solution for you. The ingredients are amazing. I was super impressed. I thought I would read all these weird things in there, but it wasn't. It's ingredients that you know and trust, and you can grow thicker, healthier hair and support our show by going to Nutrafol.com and using promo code MAMAS. And new customers will get 20% off. This is their best offer available anywhere, plus free shipping on every order. Get 20% off at Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code MAMAS.
And then I got on the birth stool and was just laboring on that for a few contractions. And I reached down because I felt something, and I was like, what is that? And it felt like something was bulging. And I was like, is that the baby's head? And she looked and she was like, oh no, that's your water. That's your bag of waters. And it was bulging. And so, I really wish that my husband would have got this on video, but then it started like expanding like outside of my body. And it was the wildest experience, like the wildest feeling. It was like somebody was blowing up a balloon like from inside of me.
Right, yeah.
And it was just like, it was so weird. And I was like freaking out because I was worried that it was going to splash everybody. And my midwives were like, it's okay, we have the tarps down. And I'm like, no, but it's going to explode. It's going to go everywhere. And they were like, just relax, just calm down. And of course it did. It popped eventually because it can only get so big. So it popped and it went on the tarps and it was fine. But just kind of like, it was just kind of like looking back, like that was kind of a funny moment that I was so worried about that. But, so then, once your water breaks, your water is kind of like that cushion, right? Mm-hmm. That makes things not easy, but like it gives you a little bit of a cushion for the pain. And then the water broke and it was go time. So that was around 12:30, and around 1, I got back into the tub. We had to warm it up. And this is not something that I mentioned in my post, but there was a point in my labor where they weren't sure I was going to be able to get back into the water because it wasn't warm enough. So they worry about the babies. Yeah. They can't temperature regulate very well. And so they want the water around 100 degrees, and it was like 92. And so we were really trying to like warm it up. But we live in a 1970s farmhouse and we don't have a huge water heater. And so we were just boiling pots of water. Looking back, if I could do it again, I would order, like, Amazon has like, water heaters that you can like put in a pot, mm-hmm. and it does it really fast. But we were just like pouring buckets of water, and they checked it, and it was like a good temperature, and I was so thankful. But there was a point in my birth where I was like having to come to terms with like, this might not be a water birth, which was a super huge past. Like, I really, really wanted a water birth. But obviously I want my baby to come out safe. And when she told me I could get in, I was like, oh, thank you so much. So I got back in the tub at 1, and then my contractions switched again, and I was feeling them in my back again. And I told them, and I was just like, this is so weird. Like, why are they switching? Like, why am I feeling them both in my back and in the front? Because if anybody's not familiar, like, usually when you have back contractions, it means that the baby is turned. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, the baby's not like turning back and forth. Like, why am I feeling contractions in both places? So, around 1:15, I told them that I was feeling pushy, and it was just the experience of them trusting me to trust my body. Like, they weren't in my space. Like, they weren't overwhelmingly like telling me what to do. Like, I was 9 centimeters at one point, and she was like, I think that I wouldn't start pushing now because you don't want your cervix to swell. So she was like giving me advice. She was like, obviously listen to your body. And then once, if you've ever given birth, like, when it's time to push, that's not something that you can really stop. And so I told them at 1:15, I was like, I'm pushing. And she was like, okay. And so I started pushing, and she was giving me a couple different, I felt like I was moving around like a ton because I was so uncomfortable. And pushing is not really a part of birth that I enjoy because I usually do have back contractions. And so there's not really like a relief for me to push. I know a lot of women say like, oh, it felt so good to push because I had felt these contractions for so long, and now I can do something with them. And she was giving me some different positions, and finally, it was only 8 minutes, but after 8 minutes of pushing, I pushed out my baby boy, and he came out, and she said, he's breech. And he came out butt first, actually. Oh my gosh, yeah. And so that's kind of made sense as to why I was dilating differently, why I was not dilating where the head would be down, because he wasn't putting as much pressure. And so he was born, and I just like started sobbing because I was just so relieved to be past that phase and just have my baby on my chest. And it's just, there's no other feeling like it. And so I sat back in the birth tub and leaned back and just kind of waited for, we were waiting for the placenta, and they were checking the baby, and he was crying, and he looked great. He got, 10 out of 10 on the APGAR. And he was like a normal size baby, like my other ones. I birthed, like, my other babies were like 8.5 pounds, and he didn't look, super small. And, so yeah, that was the first part of my.
Oh my goodness.
Do you want me to just go into what?
Yes.
Okay. So then, looking back, I have a little snippet of video. My husband we didn't have like a videographer or a photographer, but my husband took some pictures and he took some video, and looking back and seeing my belly and in those pictures, I'm like, that belly is still really big to just have a placenta in there. And in the video that he took, the very short video that he took, there was the way that I was contracting did not seem like just placenta contractions. The way that I was contracting was not an afterbirth contraction. I was still pushing very hard, and 6 minutes after Silas came out, I pushed and looked down and saw a just head full of dark hair coming out at me. And my midwife said, we have what did she say? We have a hidden twin. And he came out breech too. And I was just, I don't think anybody can ever prepare for that type of like shock, like expecting a placenta and looking down and seeing like another child. And I have a picture of Silas on my chest with his hat already on. And like, he's up on me having his skin to skin. And then like Gideon is just like, I'm kind of like, like holding him, like, what just happened? What in the world just happened? It was so bizarre, and just, I don't know. There's really no words to describe it.
We are going to take a quick break from this episode so I can share with you something that is going to make your life as a parent easier, and that is Little Spoon. They help keep your kids healthy without sacrifice or breaking the bank. Little Spoon's fresh baby food and kids' meals are just like homemade, but without the hours spent in the kitchen, huge mess, and expensive grocery bills. These days, parents are busier than ever, and Little Spoon gets it. They ship directly to your door with everything ready in just minutes. You can pop all of their meals in the fridge or freezer, whatever is easiest for you. Little Spoon's baby blends are made of 100+ organic ingredients, featuring in a rotating menu of seasonal recipes designed alongside pediatricians and nutritionists. The best part is it doesn't break the bank, and there are no commitments. It's just $3 or less per meal. For toddlers and big kids, there's over 15 different plates to choose from at any given time, and every recipe is packed with hidden organic veggies and superfoods to ensure that your kid gets a balanced meal no matter what. And the best part is that every single plate is under $5. Little Spoon has seriously nailed it. It ships to your door in under $5, no commitments, and there's tons of options that kids love. Go to littlespoon.com/try/mama to get started, and be sure to use our code MAMA to get $15 off your first delivery.
And so Gideon came out breech as well, but first, and everyone in the room was just like shocked, like they're just complete shock. So I was still sitting in the birth tub for a little bit, and they let the cord stop pulsing, and they cut those and gave one of the babies to my husband, and then got me out of the tub to actually birth my placenta. And so I was laying in the bed and just still like trying to process what just happened, because I had just had an ultrasound the day before, and she said she didn't see two.
How though?
I don't know. My midwife thinks that Gideon was actually the one that was head down, because when she did my cervical check, she felt hair and she felt a head. And like all of my all the heartbeats that she ever would feel would be like down where like if the head was down, that's where the heart, and she even checked like multiple times during my pregnancy for any other heartbeats. And I had even jokingly said at one appointment, because I was measuring ahead, and I told her, I was like, if I push this baby out and then you tell me that there's another one coming, I'm going to punch you in the face. Like, I was joking. And so it had been just this kind of like thing of like, we were just kind of joking around about it through the pregnancy. And then, I got that ultrasound just to kind of rule it out, because I was so big and so uncomfortable, and she didn't see another one. So my midwife thinks that Gideon was head down for most of the pregnancy, and Silas was just kind of like tucked behind him. And when I started to go into labor, that, Silas kind of descended and pushed Gideon out of the way. And so then Gideon went up and Silas came down and came out breech. And then Gideon kind of came back around butt first. There's no way to really know what happened. I'm thankful that everything was fine. And, they didn't have the cords like wrapped around their necks. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, it was just wild. And when I got back into the bed, my belly was still pretty big, and they were like checking my fundus and stuff like that. And it was just, I guess, how hard it was. She was like, she told her assistant, she was like, hand me the Doppler. And I looked at her and I was like, no,
right.
No. And I looked at my husband, my poor husband, who was like, just trying to process all of this. That was the longest, like 20 seconds of my life, when she was trying to check for fetal heart tones on my placenta. Thankfully, it was just a placenta. It was just a very big placenta. Mm-hmm. There was actually 2 of them. And it was a 3-pound placenta. Or like combined, it was almost 3 pounds. And the boys, I went to 40 weeks. So they were, full term sized babies. Gideon was 7'12" and Silas was 7'8", which is small for me. My last baby was like 8'12" or something like that. So that's a small baby for me, but very normal for a lot of people. So, I was able to birth the placenta, and I did have a little bit of complications after delivery where I needed some oxygen, and I had a little bit of retained, what do they call it, trailing membrane from my amniotic sac that was stuck. So she had to remove that. And that took a little while. And if you don't get it out, then your body will just continue to try and flush it out, which can cause you to hemorrhage. And then I was just super weak and I just birthed twins unexpectedly, and my body lost like almost 20 pounds of baby and tissue and placenta and fluid. And so it was a big change very quickly. And so, yeah, that was, the midwives stayed for probably another 3 hours just to make sure that I was good. And I had some lasagna in the middle of my bathroom floor.
Yeah.
and it was fine after that. I know that there could have been things that happened, but my midwives they were on it, and they just rolled with the punches. Okay, buddy. So yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Oh my gosh. That is just so wild. Oh my gosh.
I know. And it's not, it's like, who does that anymore? Who has like a baby inside of them that they don't know about? But like, I didn't have any ultrasounds, and I didn't really feel a ton more kicks than like my previous pregnancies. It was just like at the end, I was just so big. And if you look on my Instagram page, I posted a couple birth pics. There's one of me in the tub, and then there's one of me like walking in my driveway, and you're like, yeah, that's a big belly. But I'm, like I said, I'm not a petite girl. And so I just thought like, okay, this is just my 4th kid, and I'm just big this time. But I didn't really have there wasn't really anything throughout the pregnancy where I was like, oh, this is totally twins. Like that, there was never any like sure thing where I was like questioning it. So I don't, it's just wild.
All right, we are going to break from this episode so I can share with you all about BetterHelp. They are such an amazing resource that will help assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You get to connect in a safe and private online environment that is so convenient and start communicating in under 24 hours. It's not self-help, it is professional counseling, and you can message your counselor anytime and you'll get a timely and thoughtful response. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions, whatever you're comfortable with. So if you're struggling with depression, stress, anxiety, relationships, anger, family conflicts, grief, use BetterHelp. They are so amazing. I used them before and I'm actually about ready to jump back in. I know being on this motherhood journey, it's just brought up some things in my own life. Like, your kids are your mirrors and they show you the things that you need to work on. And I'm like, man, I got to go talk to a therapist again, just because of the things coming up in my life. And there's no shame in doing that. I think it's so important to be able to have counseling, to get an outside source who can help you sort through the things in your life. And BetterHelp makes it so easy. And you get to communicate in an environment that you're comfortable with. They're convenient, professional, affordable. And in fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they are recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. I want you to start living a happier life today. And as a listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting betterhelp.com/mamas. Join over 1 million people taking charge of their mental health. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/mamas. Now back to the episode.
And when were they born?
So they were born October 10th. So their birthdays were 10, 10, 20, which is kind of cool. At 1:20 and 1:26. They came 6 minutes apart.
Oh my gosh.
Then we had to think of a whole nother name and tell our families.
Was everyone just so shocked? Or did people think you knew and you were keeping it from them?
I think my mother-in-law thought that we knew and we were keeping it from her, but we were like, no, we didn't know. But my husband texted her that night and he said, baby's here, everyone doing well. And he spelled babies like BABIES, like plural. And she texted him back and she was like, good to hear. You do mean babies, like with the YS. And he didn't say anything. And then the next morning we called. So he kind of tried to trick her, but I called my mom on video chat and I was like, here he is. And I think I had Gideon in my arms and then I was like, let me show you the other one. She was just like, what? Because none of our family lives here. So they're all out of state. So we had to tell everyone over the phone, but it was really joyful. And just my birth overall was just, I would say, peaceful, despite the fact that I birthed twins without knowing. There was a point where I have birth affirmation cards hung up and my midwife was just like reading them to me and reading the scripture cards that I had hung up. It was just so peaceful until they came. And then it was kind of chaos because we were like, what in the world just happened? But it was amazing. I couldn't have asked for a better birth. I'm 99.99999% sure we're done. But if I do ever have another child, it will be at home. And I'll get an ultrasound. One ultrasound.
At 20 weeks or at the end?
Probably at 20 weeks. But okay, so that being said, honestly though, I am so thankful for the way that it happened, because if I would have gotten that 20-week ultrasound, my midwife would have probably tried to get me to work with a different midwife that does births in a birth center for twins. But it probably just would have not gone the same way. And then, if I knew that I was having twins, they probably would have wanted me to have another ultrasound at the end. And then they would have maybe seen that there could have been so many different things that they tried to intervene upon. And I know that the way that I did it is not the way that 99% of other people do it when they have twins. But like, my body was allowed to just do what it was made to do, and look what happened. Like, it was fine. Like, I birthed 40-week twins, like full-term twins, breech at home, and they're fine. They're healthy. And, so I don't know. I mean, I think that there is a time and a place for intervention when it comes to pregnancy, but I do feel like we intervene a little bit too much with the process. So that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah. I remember reading, it was over a year ago, about breech. Well, because your babies were frank breech, which is actually pretty safe regardless of what people think. Footling breech is like where it can be an issue because the cord can get caught.
Yeah, because their head comes out last.
Right. Their feet first, so they can end up pinching the cord. It can cut off circulation. Frank breech, I remember just kind of reading about it, how basically it's hard to find doctors that will deliver it because they've lost the art of teaching them how. And I know that there's like a couple here in Illinois, but it's actually, for the most part, frank breech is pretty safe, and people should be able to have the option to do that. I feel like as long as you know your research, you know the pros and cons, you know the risks and the benefits, then you should be able to make that decision for yourself, not have the medical system automatically schedule you for a C-section. You should be able to, make those decisions for yourself based on the research and what evidence shows. So that's awesome, though. That's so crazy. Yeah, because if they would have seen that it was twins, and then if they would have seen that they were breech, it would have been a completely different story for you.
Well, but they didn't turn breech until I was in labor.
Right.
So that, that wouldn't have really shown up on ultrasound or anything like that. So that kind of happened at the end, and they wouldn't have had a choice. They wouldn't have had a choice. I'm like, no, I'm pushing these babies out. They're coming out. So yeah.
How is your family adjusting with the twins now?
It has been, I tell people when they ask me how I'm doing, I say I'm surviving. I'm not thriving yet. Because I try and be very upfront about motherhood and just kind of the challenges that come along with it. And obviously this is a big one. And the kids are doing pretty well. There's obviously been some hard parts and some adjustments, and just expecting one baby and getting two. We've had some adjustments and some just things that we are dealing with I guess like behavior and stuff like that. But I just try and remind myself, like, they're going through a transition too, just like I am. And I've had to adjust my priorities as far as like the house and just, I can't do everything. And I have newborn twins that I'm exclusively breastfeeding, direct breastfeeding. And so it's like, that's all I'm doing basically all day long. But my other kids still have to eat, and, I still have to eat, and I have to take care of myself. And so it's been a lot. It's been an adjustment, but I feel like each week is getting better. And I know, because I've done this 4 times, or I've done this 3 times before, I know how short this season is. And I know that I'm going to look back and I'm going to miss them, like, being this small, and like just the little newborn phase is like my favorite. And it is more challenging with 2. I feel like I do miss a little bit of just having that one, because just even like with breastfeeding, like, it's such a personal relationship for me to like be able to like snuggle my baby and breastfeed and like look at them and like, oh, they're falling asleep, they're so perfect. But then when you have like another baby that needs to feed and is like crying, and they don't really tandem yet, maybe eventually when they get a little bit stronger. But so a lot of times I have like another baby that's like crying, and I'm like, okay, this isn't like as relaxing as like my previous ones, but it's good overall. We're so blessed, and we know that we are. And we know just it'll get better. And the community, oh my goodness, the community that surrounded me, like on Instagram, I was just blown away. I get emotional thinking about it. Like, people just rallied around us and they were like, what do you need? Like, because we had these 2 babies now and like, we're only prepared for 1. And like, people sent diapers and wipes and people just fulfilled our registry. Like, I had to get like a double stroller for both of the car seats. And I was blown away. And I know that social media can get a bad rap, but like, I am truly proud of the community that I have built, and that is over there, just 99% positive for me. And I know that's not everyone's experience. So I'm very thankful.
Mm-hmm. Are any of your older children boys?
Yeah, I have 2 girls and then a boy, and then now two more boys. Yeah. So we went from 2 girls, 2 boys to 2 girls and 3 boys.
Right.
So he's the one he's my youngest. And so he's the one that's having the most trouble, because he's not the baby anymore. And then my older girls they're very helpful, and they love, oh my goodness, they have a way with the twins. Like, aww, they can hold them and get them to sleep. And it's amazing to see. Mm-hmm. But my kids are all still very young, and I also homeschool, which we haven't done any of since the babies have come. But it's just kind of it's going to be a crazy season for a little bit, because my oldest kids are still like, they're still pretty young. They're still pretty needy. They can't just like, go get themselves lunch and like things like that yet. So it's going to be a transition for a little while, but we'll make it. Yeah. My husband was able to take 2 weeks off, and he can work from home like 3 days a week. So that's nice.
Yeah,
so.
That's super helpful. I asked if you had an older boy just because of all the like hand-me-down clothes.
Yeah.
That's nice to have.
We do have clothes, and it's funny because we actually we knew we were having a boy, and we actually gave away. We were up in our barn like 3 weeks before the baby was born, and we were just like, there's just too much stuff up here. Like, get rid of all of it, purge it. We sold I think it was like 10 bags of baby girl clothes. I sold all of it for like $50. And it's kind of funny. Like, what if we would have had a twin girl? Like, oh my gosh, we would have just gotten rid of all of that stuff. But anyway, it didn't happen to be like that, but just kind of funny to think about.
Yeah. Well, we had a daughter, and we got hand-me-downs from her cousins, and there's only one girl who's 5. So she's a lot older. So there's not like tons of stuff left, but she has a couple of boy cousins who are older. So she ends up, I'm like, she's 9 weeks now, and there's just like cute snuggly outfits that are kind of more boyish, but I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, just because I hate spending money on clothes for myself, let alone like a kid who's going to grow out of it literally in a week. So, but my sister-in-law loves it because I'll like send her an outfit, and she's like, oh my gosh, Lorenzo used to wear that when he was a baby. I love that she's wearing it.
Oh, it is. There's like a certain nostalgia when you like put a child in something that like a previous child wore. You're like, oh, like it takes you right back.
Mm-hmm. I'm like, these pajamas have dinosaurs on it. I don't care.
It doesn't matter. People are going to call her a boy anyway. Like, people are always like, oh, he's so cute. And I'm like, yeah, that's a girl. Or like, she's so cute. And I'm like, yeah, that's a boy. Like, it's just kind of funny.
Mm-hmm. Babies are babies. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I feel like your story is very, it's very wild, but also B, it's very, very empowering. Cause I know a lot of people, listening have chosen other paths of birth, maybe after, their first couple of experiences. And I know a lot of people have chosen to birth differently just this last year in general because of the pandemic and everything. And not maybe feeling safe in hospital settings or for whatever reason. So just hearing, people who had empowering birthing stories, even when situations didn't go as planned, is always very rewarding. So I just want to thank you so much for your time, for coming on here. I mean, you're like 3 weeks postpartum, and you have twins and other kids running around, and you took the time to come on here and to share your story. So I really appreciate that.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. It was fun.
Yeah. And where can people find and follow you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Purely Parsons with an S, all one word. And then I also have a website, purelyparsons.com, where I offer some organic elderberry kits. And I also have a PDF for natural. It's a natural birth guide PDF that you can actually take to the hospital with you. And it tells your provider kind of what your wishes are for your birth. And then I also have a free resource, my birth scripture cards and birth affirmation cards. If you sign up for the email list, you'll get that for free. So that's all on my website.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Her story's so wild. Oh my gosh. I just can't even believe it. I love listening to her birth story, and oh my gosh, so wild. I cannot imagine having twins and not knowing that that there was twins. Oh my goodness. But I'm just so grateful again for her coming on, because I know that she had the babies 3 weeks prior to the recording. So, and she has other kids at home and has a crazy, crazy life right now. So for her to take an hour of her time to come on and connect and to share with you guys is just so awesome. Next week, we have Candace King, who's due any day now with her second kid, and Kayla Uhl. So they are the ladies from Directionally Challenged podcast, and they're from TV. I mean, they're both they met on doing the Vampire Diaries, and then they both went on to do a lot of other acting roles. And I just have such a lovely chat with them. It was so much fun connecting with them, and they both kind of dive into motherhood with us and how it's been. And so I'm super excited for you guys to hear the episode next week. I hope wherever you're at, that you're staying warm, especially if you're in, the colder areas right now, and that you're just taking this time to connect with the people right in front of you, to be present with your kids and to be present with your partner and your loved ones. We're just in such a strange time where there's a lot of things that really suck. Like, my aunt can't see her husband who's in the nursing home because they're on lockdown, and she hasn't been able to visit him in a month. And to me, that's just like absolutely heartbreaking. But that's like where it's at right now. So I just pray that you guys are finding connection, that you're finding peace, that you are finding what's beautiful in the day-to-day and finding something to be grateful for. And I am so grateful for you guys, for you listening to this podcast, for you supporting it, for you guys being a part of the community. And I'm just so honored to be a part of this with you. Have a great week. And I am excited for you to hear next week's podcast. Love you guys. Bye.
If you want to be the most interesting person at the cocktail party, well, hop on over and listen to the Brain Candy podcast.
Our award-winning content will have you laughing while you're learning.
We read all the best articles, books, and studies, and keep up with new TV shows, documentaries, and pop culture. And then we cram it all into 2 shows a week.
Conspiracy theories, cannibal rabbits, unsolved mysteries, the history of the Walkman. There's something for everyone.
The Brain Candy podcast. Find our link in the show notes.
Or simply search for the Brain Candy podcast on your podcast app.